So as if it hasn't been stressful enough and confusing enough, the State Bar, after their closed meeting and hearing a public comment last week, they released a lowered cut score, a remedial measure that they're going to propose to the California Supreme Court probably this week. And it is now at a 534. What does that mean? To be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure. I mean, I've been doing bar prep for almost 16 years, and I've looked at thousands of scores. And of course, we know what the passing standard is and where applicants need to fall. But in terms of the computation, it's always been quite confusing. I'm going to try and give some clarity as to how an applicant could get to this 534. This is not an end-all, be-all video. Of course, please chime in if you have more clarity here. Please, comment and let me know if you have any questions. Let me try and give some clarity here. So traditionally, the raw score combined fell at about a 580 for the multiple choice and the essay and performance test, the writing portion. And that's ever since we went to a 2-day bar. And now the State Bar is telling us that if you completed at least 114 out of, I don't know why the email says 171, if maybe someone can answer that. I thought it was 175 always of the graded questions out of 200 of the multiple choice. But the email says 114 out of the 171 scored MBE questions, and you completed at least 4 out of the 6 writing assignments. That goes for essays and performance tests. My most concerned area of this exam, and always, but even more so, is the performance test. I know a lot of applicants had a lot of glitches during it, a lot of problems, so not okay. And if you didn't complete the performance test, the State Bar needs to answer what happens in that computation because it is worth the weight of 2 essays. So I understand they will come back and say, well, that's why we lowered the raw cut score. But still, I mean, it's worth so much. It's not fair to applicants that were not allowed to retake that portion of the exam. So questions there remain to be answered. But now they've lowered it to a 534, which after the raw scores are combined, then gets into a scaling process. And to my understanding, there's variables there. It's not always so straightforward. It depends on, what is taken into account is some questions being harder than others. And so eventually you need to scale a 1390 out of 2,000 points. So let's go one by one. Traditionally, you need a 119 approximately, this does vary, but about a 119, 120 out of the 175 graded multiple choice questions. And then for the essays, you're shooting for, I like my applicants to go for at least about a 65 or higher, especially on the essays, but of course on the performance test. That's why if you'll ever see an applicant get even 55s and 60s on essays, but then jump into a 70, 75 range on the performance test, the scaled score just balloons, and sometimes it can even balloon into a 1400 scaled range. So the PT as such a crucial component to every exam. But we're shooting for about at least 63 to 65, not lower on the essays and performance tests. So if we're just gonna do a very simple calculation, let's just pretend you get 60s across the board on essays 1 to 5 on this exam. So you're looking at about 300 points. And then let's say you got a 65 on your PT times 2, because it's worth the weight of 2 essays. Now you're looking at 130 points for your PT, which will give you a combined 430 raw points of writing, which means you'll need 104. So 534 minus 430, you'll need 104 raw MBE points to get to the 534. So it's definitely a pretty big lowering of the raw score. And of course, it does not at all create a very big remedial measure, meaning like there's so many other things I think that they could have done, but we'll take it. It definitely should lessen some stress, especially for those that were able to complete more and more of the exam and do well with it. This video is not to create any stress, so I don't want to go too far into my thoughts because I know we're waiting on results next week and applicants have been through the ringer and they've been through enough. What I will say is try not to sit and, compute the what ifs. What's done is done, and I know there can be temptation to do that. I probably would do it myself, but at this point, just try and keep busy while you're waiting for results. On May 5th, the State Bar is going to meet and go through remedial measures that are non-scoring related, and then submit those to the Supreme Court. And remember, this cut score also has to go through Supreme Court approval, which I do think that we will get, and it will be expedited before results come out. But, my heart goes out to you all. Hopefully that provided some clarity. I know there's so many questions left, but just in the bare bone, just know that I would say the performance test and at least 105 or more questions, 110 or so on the multiple choice, as opposed to that 119 plus scoring range, is going to be needed. So hopefully you did well. I'm rooting for all of you. I'll make more videos about this topic as it comes out. If you have feedback, I hope this was helpful. If you're still watching, try and keep positive. I know it has been a crappy bar season for February 25 takers, and I've been following along. My thoughts are with you, and we're going to remain positive. You will get this done no matter what. And, maybe we won't ever get the answers that you deserve, but I'm here in support of you all and thinking of you all, and so much love. So keep positive, and to be continued. Be well.